Personal log. Commander Vexthala. Hegemony. Intelligence Division. Timestamp. 2387.1561423. Standard. I keep checking my chronometer. 3 minutes between each glance. Nervous habit. Started when I was a cadet. My instructors called it temporal anxiety disorder. The compulsive need to mark time when stress peaks. They never broke me of it. Now I'm grateful. When everything goes wrong, at least I know exactly when. The human stood in our detention bay for 43 hours. 18 minutes? I have the exact count. She hadn't moved once. Still think she's catatonic? Lieutenant Kexmora whispered beside me, his gill slits fluttering with barely contained amusement. I checked my chronometer again. 43 hours, 21 minutes. Trauma response, I said. Standard protocol suggests. The human's head turned. Not fast, not threatening. Just turned. Like machinery engaging after a long sleep. Her eyes, those forward-facing predator eyes that made half our crew refuse guard duty, fixed on me through the observation glass. My chronometer said 14:26:08 when she spoke. You're still counting wrong. The translator took 2.3 seconds to process her words. Long enough for my brain to catch up. Long enough to realize she'd been watching us watch her. Listening to us analyze her like she was some kind of specimen. 43 hours of playing dead. Ma'am! Kexmora's voice cracked. He was young. 4th rotation out of academy. Still believed the briefings about human psychological fragility. The human, designation Terra 7, according to our prisoner manifest, though she'd given the name Sergeant Collins during initial processing, stood up. Smooth. Controlled. Like she hadn't been motionless for nearly 2 standard days. Your math, she said, walking to the energy barrier that separated us. It's wrong. I checked my chronometer. 14:26:45. What math? Her smile didn't reach those predator eyes. How many humans you think you captured? The blood in my veins went cold. Arctic cold. I'd spent 15 years in intelligence. 15 years learning to read situations, to spot deceptions, to calculate risks. My career depended on getting the numbers right. We'd captured 1 human. 1. The transport ship had carried minimal crew. 3 Terran operatives conducting what our analysts labeled a reconnaissance probe near the Kelton system. We'd intercepted them 12 sectors from any allied position. Clean capture. Minimal resistance. 2 humans died in the boarding action. 1 survived. Sergeant Collins. I checked the manifest again on my wrist display. 1 human prisoner. Status, secured. Threat level, contained. There's one of you, I said. You. Her smile widened. So still didn't reach her eyes. Wrong again. My chronometer read 14:27:01 when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in 3.7 seconds later. Red illumination bathed the detention bay. Through the crimson haze, I could see Sergeant Collins standing exactly where she'd been. Arms at her sides, perfectly calm. The energy barrier was still active. She hadn't moved toward it. Hadn't touched anything. Couldn't have touched anything. Security breach. Detention level 7, came the automated announcement. All personnel report to... The voice cut off. I grabbed my communicator. Dead. Emergency channel? Dead. Command frequency? Dead. Kexmora, get to... He was already running. Good instincts. Terrible timing. The detention bay doors sealed shut with a heavy thunk. Magnetic locks engaged. The sound echoed through the chamber like a death knell. Now it was just me and the human. I checked my chronometer. 14:27:38. You're trapped, I said, stating the obvious. My tactical training demanded I assert control of the situation, even when control had clearly shifted elsewhere. Collins walked to the energy barrier. Close enough that I could see the small scar above her left eyebrow. Close enough to notice she was younger than I'd initially calculated. Maybe 35 standard years. Young for a sergeant in any military organization. Am I? She asked. The barrier flickered. I stepped back. That's impossible. The power grid is completely independent, Collins finished. Self-contained? Failsafe? The barrier flickered again. Longer this time. We studied your systems for 8 months before this mission, she said. Your detention protocols, your security redundancies, your beautiful, predictable mathematical certainty about how everything works. My hands moved to my sidearm. Standard hegemony disruptor, fully charged. Enough stopping power to drop a Krillian battle beast at 50 meters. Or, don't, Collins said, not looking at the weapon. You'll need it later. The barrier died. My chronometer said 14:28:15. Collins didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't attack, just stood there, separated from me by 3 meters of empty air and a growing sense that I'd fundamentally misunderstood everything about this situation. There's one of you, I said again. I can see you. Right there. One human. One human you can see, she corrected. One human you captured. One human who let herself be captured. Let herself. The words hit me like depressurization. Sudden, violent, leaving me gasping for equilibrium. The other two died exactly as planned, Collins said. Convincingly, heroically, with just enough resistance to make it look real. I checked my chronometer. 14:29:03. Had to keep marking time. Had to maintain some anchor to reality while everything else unraveled. But you survived. I survived because I needed to be here, in your detention bay, for 43 hours, 22 minutes. She glanced at my chronometer. You really do check that thing every 3 minutes. How long had she been watching? How long had she been cataloging our habits, our routines, our patterns? How long had she been calculating us while we calculated her? This is impossible, I said. Our intelligence reports, our behavioral analyses, our psychological profiles, they all indicate humans crack under sustained isolation. 43 hours of sensory deprivation should have broken me? Collins's laugh was soft, almost gentle. Commander Vexathala, right? 15 years in intelligence, decorated analyst, specialist in xenopsychology and behavioral prediction. She knew my name, my service record. Your reports are wrong, she continued. Not inaccurate, wrong, built on fundamentally flawed assumptions about what humans are and how we operate. The emergency lighting flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. 43 hours, Collins said. Know what I was doing that whole time? I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up like a malfunctioning airlock. Listening, she said. Learning your shift rotations, your security protocols, your command frequencies, your patrol routes. The acoustic signature of your artificial gravity generator. Did you know it cycles every 47 minutes? It creates a harmonic resonance in the hull that you can feel if you know what to listen for. My chronometer said 14:30:12. But mostly, Collins continued, I was counting. Counting what? Her smile finally reached her eyes. Cold, predatory, mathematical. How many of you there are on this ship? The temperature in the detention bay seemed to drop 10 degrees. I could see my breath misting in the red emergency light. 347 crew members, I said. Full complement for a hegemony cruiser. 347, Collins agreed. Minus the 18 who died when my teammates triggered their death charges. Those weren't suicide bombs, Commander. They were electromagnetic pulse generators, specifically tuned to your shield frequencies. My mind raced. 18 crew members. Bridge rotation, engineering, navigation, key positions. Minus the 23 who are currently unconscious from the sedative gas my people introduced into your air recycling system 4 hours ago. I checked my chronometer. 14:30:45. 4 hours ago would have been minus the 52 who are trapped in sealed compartments because someone, she paused, in tilting her head like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Someone with detailed knowledge of your ship's layout has been selectively engaging your emergency protocols. My legs felt weak. I leaned against the observation window. That leaves 254 active crew members, Collins said. Give or take. There's still only one of you, I managed. One of me here, she agreed. In your detention bay. Where you can see me. The lights went out again. This time, they stayed out. In the absolute darkness, I heard Colin's voice. Calm, patient, educational. Tell me, Commander Vexathala, when you were calculating human capabilities, did you account for the fact that we don't always fight alone? My chronometer's faint glow showed 14:31:22. Did you account for the possibility that some humans might be willing to die just to get one of their people exactly where she needs to be? A new sound filled the darkness. Soft, rhythmic, familiar. Footsteps, or multiple sets of footsteps, moving through the corridors of my ship. Did you account, Collins's voice continued, somehow closer now, for the fact that one human might actually be the most dangerous number of all? The emergency power came back online. Collins was gone. I checked my chronometer. 14:31:59. Then I started running. Personal log, Commander Vexathala, Hegemony. Intelligence Division. Timestamp. 2387.15, 6.1547, standard final entry. I'm recording this from the emergency pod. Automatic distress beacon is active. The Hegemony will find this log eventually. The ship is gone. Not destroyed. Taken. Crew unconscious but alive. Secured in the cargo bays with enough supplies for 2 weeks. Sergeant Collins was waiting for me in the command center when I arrived, sitting in the captain's chair like she belonged there. She looked up from a tactical display showing 7 Terran vessels approaching at sub-light speeds. 43 hours, 56 minutes, she said, glancing at my chronometer. Right on schedule. How many? I asked. How many what? How many humans are actually on my ship? Her smile was almost sympathetic. Commander, you're still asking the wrong question. What's the right question? The right question is, how many humans have been on your ship all along? I checked my chronometer. 15:47:18. I'm still checking it. Every 3 minutes. Some habits apparently are stronger than terror. End log. I'm a tactical analysis report senior war planner, Thex Andros Hegemony. Strategic command. Classification, absolute priority. The coffee tastes like recycled coolant fluid. I've been drinking this swill for 6 standard days, ever since High Command locked us in the strategic planning bunker and threw away the access codes. No one leaves until you solve the human problem, they said. No sleep, no rotation, no excuses. 6 days of the same bitter synthetic garbage that barely qualifies as caffeine. The 6 days of staring at holographic battle displays until my eyes blur. 6 days of watching our mathematical certainties crumble like sandcastles in a solar storm. And I keep drinking it because admitting the coffee is terrible would mean admitting we've been terrible at this job. The latest casualty report floats in the air before me. 17 more ships. Gone. Not destroyed. That would be comprehensible. Destroyed ships leave debris, energy signatures, some indication of what happened. These ships just stopped transmitting. War Planner Thexandros? My aide, sub-analyst Crexilla, approaches with another datapad. Young, eager, still believes in the mathematical perfection of war. The Kelton Defense Fleet reports another anomaly. I take the pad. Same pattern. Same impossible result. Tell me what you see, I say. She points to the tactical display. Confident, precise. Everything I was at her age. Terran Strike Force, designation Alpha 7, 12 vessels. Our light cruiser configuration. Standard human armament. Kinetic weapons, missile tubes, primitive shield arrays. They're engaging the Kelton defensive perimeter. Numbers? 143 hegemony vessels. Full battle configuration. Numerical advantage, 11.9 to 1. Firepower advantage, 47 to 1. Shield strength advantage, Crexilla. Yes, War Planner? What happened? Her confidence wavers. Young analysts hate admitting they don't understand something. The human fleet withdrew after 17 minutes of engagement. Casualties? Minimal on both sides. 2 human vessels reported minor damage. 4 of our ships experienced temporary systems failures. I drain my terrible coffee, set the cup down harder than necessary. And? And what, War Planner? What happened next? Crexilla consults her datapad. Her mandibles click nervously, a childhood habit that most hegemony officers never quite outgrow. Nothing happened next. The humans withdrew. The engagement ended. The Kelton system remains under our control. I walk to the main tactical display. 3 meters wide, 2 meters high. Real-time feed from the entire war zone. Thousands of ships. Millions of data points. The mathematical symphony of galactic warfare. Crexilla, how many similar engagements have we recorded in the past 6 days? 47, War Planner. Pattern analysis? The humans engage, inflict minimal damage, my withdraw after 15 to 20 minutes. They never commit to prolonged battle. They never attempt to hold a territory. They never lose. Her mandibles stop clicking. War Planner? 47 engagements, 0 human defeats, 0 territorial gains for them, 0 territorial losses for us. I point to the display. What does that tell you? Crexilla studies the hologram. I can see her analyst training kicking in. Pattern recognition, probability assessment, mathematical modeling. They're probing our defenses? Maybe. Testing our response times? Possibly. Gathering intelligence? Almost certainly. I finish my coffee. Still terrible. But that's not the right question. What is the right question? I've been asking myself the same thing for 6 days. 6 days of watching human forces engage in tactically illogical behavior. 6 days of trying to fit their actions into any mathematical model that makes sense. The door chimes. Senior analyst Gexmaran enters, C carrying a stack of datapads and the haunted expression of someone who's been staring at impossible numbers for too long. War Planner, he says, we've identified a new pattern. Show me. Gexmaran activates his personal display. A 3-dimensional map appears, showing human fleet movements across 17 sectors. Red lines trace their engagement routes. Blue dots mark hegemony positions. Notice anything unusual? He asks. I study the pattern. At first glance, it looks random, chaotic, on no apparent strategic logic. Then I see it. They're not attacking our strong points. Correct. They're not attacking our weak points either. Also correct. They're attacking... I trace the red lines with my finger. They're attacking our mathematical models. Gexmaran nods grimly. Every engagement occurs at precisely the fleet disposition our tactical computers predict as lowest probability for human success. The terrible coffee suddenly tastes worse. I explain. Our strategic algorithms calculate optimal engagement scenarios based on hegemony advantages, numerical superiority, firepower ratios, defensive positioning. The computer identifies the situations where human forces would have the least chance of achieving tactical victory. And the humans attack exactly those positions. Every single time. Crexilla looks confused. Young analysts hate paradoxes almost as much as they hate admitting ignorance. But that's illogical, she says. If they know they can't win those engagements, why? Because winning isn't the point, I interrupt. The room falls silent. Outside our bunker, I can hear the distant hum of the base's artificial gravity generators. Regular, predictable, mathematical. Everything this war isn't. Gexmaran, I say. Show me the resource allocation reports. He activates another display. Charts and graphs fill the air. Supply lines, fuel consumption, personnel deployment. For the past 6 days, we've been responding to 47 separate human incursions, 47 tactical alerts, 47 fleet redeployments. Standard protocol, Crexilla says. When an enemy force appears, we respond with overwhelming numerical superiority. Overwhelming numerical superiority, I repeat. Every time. Yes, War Planner. Gexmaran, calculate our fleet distribution before the human attacks began. His fingers dance over the holographic interface. New data streams appear. Standard defensive deployment, he reports. 17 major fleet concentrations protecting key systems. Reserve forces distributed to provide rapid response capability. Optimal coverage for territorial defense. Now show me our current deployment. The display shifts. The clean mathematical distribution of our forces transforms into something that looks like a child's scribble. Ships scattered across hundreds of sectors. Fleet concentrations broken up and redistributed. Reserve forces committed to engagements that ended minutes after they arrived. We're reacting, I say. War planner? We're not defending anymore. We're reacting. Every time the humans show up somewhere, we pull ships from other sectors to respond. Every engagement, even though we win, requires us to weaken our positions elsewhere. Gexmaran's expression darkens. Mathematical dispersion. Precisely. Crexilla looks between us. I don't understand. We're winning every battle. The tactical reports clearly show. The tactical reports show exactly what the humans want them to show, I snap. Then, softer. Think strategically. Forget the individual engagements. Look at the larger pattern. I gesture to the fleet distribution display. 6 days ago, we controlled our territory through concentrated defensive positions, mathematically optimal, strategically sound. And now? Now our forces are scattered across 300 sectors, chasing human fleets that withdraw the moment we arrive. The room falls silent again. Gexmaran speaks first. They're not trying to win battles. No. They're trying to make us lose the war. Without firing a shot in anger, I confirm. The communication panel chimes. Priority message from High Command. I accept the transmission. Fleet Admiral Korth's image appears in the hologram. Her usual composure has cracks in it, stress lines around her eyes. One of the kind of exhaustion that comes from making impossible decisions. War Planner Thexandros, she says. Report. Admiral, we've identified the human strategy. They're not engaging us militarily. They're engaging us mathematically. Explain. Every human attack forces us to redeploy forces. Every redeployment weakens our overall strategic position. They're using our own tactical doctrine against us. Admiral Korth's image flickers, and the transmission quality is degrading. Another sign of how stretched our communication networks have become. Recommendations? I look at the fleet distribution display, at the scattered mess of our once perfect defensive deployment, at 6 days' worth of tactical victories that have left us strategically weaker than when we started. Admiral, the humans aren't playing the same game we are. What do you mean? We're fighting a war of territory. See, they're fighting a war of mathematics. And I drain my terrible coffee. Check the chronometer. Think about the 47 engagements that achieved nothing except to prove that humans understand us better than we understand ourselves. Admiral, I recommend we stop giving them what they want. Which is? Predictable responses to unpredictable stimuli. Admiral Korth's image wavers again. When it stabilizes, her expression has changed. Harder. More focused. Are you suggesting we ignore human incursions? I'm suggesting we change the mathematical equation they're using. The transmission cuts out. I turn back to Gexmaran and Crexilla. They're both staring at the tactical display, watching the real-time feed of our forces scattered across the galaxy. War Planner, Crexilla says quietly. What if we're still calculating wrong? What do you mean? What if the humans aren't just trying to win this war? She points to the display. What if they're trying to teach us something? I pour myself another cup of terrible coffee. Think about the pattern. The mathematical precision of 47 tactically meaningless engagements. Teach us what? That maybe, she says, there's more than one way to count victory. Personal note. War Planner. Thexandros. Classification, personal journal not for official distribution. Day 7 in the bunker. The coffee is still terrible. A high command sent new orders this morning. Continue current tactical response protocols. Maintain numerical superiority in all engagements. I didn't send my report because I realized something while staring at that fleet distribution display. The humans aren't just teaching us about war, they're teaching us about ourselves. For 300 years, the hegemony has controlled this galaxy through mathematical superiority, perfect calculations, optimal resource allocation, and predictable responses to quantifiable threats. The humans took 6 days to prove that our mathematics are meaningless if someone else is writing the equation. I keep drinking the terrible coffee because it reminds me that some things can't be optimized. Some things just are what they are, even when what they are is terrible, especially then. Field Report. Captain Zeth Noller Hegemony. Expeditionary Force Personal Combat Record. The blood on my claws isn't mine. I mention this because, only after 38 standard hours of running, fighting, hiding, and bleeding through the industrial corridors of Processing Station Kappa 7, I'd started to lose track of whose blood was whose. But the blood on my claws belongs to the human who shouldn't exist. The human who died 14 hours ago when we breached the station's command center. The human who's been hunting my squad ever since. I check my weapon charge. 17%. Ammunition reserves, depleted. On medical supplies, none. Communication equipment, destroyed in the firefight 3 levels down. Squad status, 2 survivors, including myself. Including myself and the sound of Sergeant Kelxia's labored breathing from the makeshift barricade we've constructed in what used to be a waste processing facility. Her left arm hangs useless, broken, possibly worse. "Captain," she whispers, "contact." I peer through the gap in our barricade. 50 meters down the corridor, not moving in that impossibly quiet way that humans have. Not sneaking, just walking like she owns the place. Because she does own it. For 14 hours, she's owned every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every emergency exit on this station. The human stops, turns her head slightly, listening. I hold my breath. "You know," she says, her voice carrying through the recycled air with casual conversational tone. "I can hear your heartbeats from here." Sergeant Kelxia stiffens beside me. War's young soldier. 3rd deployment. Still believes in standard military protocols. The human continues walking, closer. Hegemony cardiac rhythm averages 97 beats per minute under normal conditions, she says. Under combat stress, it jumps to 140, 150. Right now, you're both hitting about 170. 40 meters. Textbook terror response. 30 meters. I signal Kelixia. Hand signs for flanking maneuver and suppressing fire. She nods, even though her injured arm makes the acknowledgement clumsy. "You're calculating how to kill me," the human says. "Tactical options, probability matrices, standard hegemony combat doctrine." 20 meters. She stops walking. "You want to know what I'm calculating?" The corridor falls silent except for the ambient hum of the station's life support systems and the irregular percussion of our terrified hearts. "I'm calculating how long you have left to live." I count 3 heartbeats. 4. 5. Now then I spring the ambush. Kelixia provides covering fire from her position. Suppression bursts designed to pin the human in the open corridor, while I advance from the flanking position we'd prepared. Perfect coordination, textbook execution. The human is gone. Not running, not hiding behind cover, just absent. Like she'd been a hologram that someone switched off. "Captain!" Kelixia's voice cracks with panic. I spin, weapon raised, scanning every angle of approach. Nothing. I turn the corridor is empty. "Above you," says a voice from the ceiling. I look up in time to see the human drop through an access panel I hadn't noticed. She lands behind Kelixia's position with casual precision. My sergeant doesn't have time to scream. The combat knife takes her in the base of the skull. Quick, clean, professional. Kelixia drops without a sound. Now it's just me and the human. I check my weapon charge again. 16%. The display reading hasn't changed, though, but the gesture gives my hands something to do besides shake. "Captain Zethnalar," the human says, stepping over Kelixia's body like it's debris. 17 years of service, decorated veteran, 3 combat commendations, specialist in close quarters battle. She knows my name, my service record. "You're studying our files," I say. "I'm studying your mathematics." The human advances slowly, deliberately. No rush. She has all the time in the galaxy. "Tell me, Captain, What's the standard hegemony calculation for engaging a single human operative? I don't answer. My training says to keep her talking while I maneuver for advantage. Find a better position, create distance, locate cover. But my position is terrible, the distance is closing, and there is no cover. 3-to-1 odds minimum, the human continues. Preferably 5-to-1. Standard doctrine acknowledges human unpredictability requires numerical compensation. She's 15 meters away, or close enough to see the details I'd missed during our previous encounters. The small scar on her chin, the way she favors her left foot, old injury probably, the absolute calm in her eyes. No rage, no bloodlust, no emotion at all. Professional. You started this engagement with a full squad, she says. 12 soldiers. Overwhelming numerical advantage. 10 meters. See how standard protocol suggested you had sufficient force multiplication to handle one human operative with acceptable casualties. 5 meters. I raise my weapon. She doesn't even flinch. Your mathematics, she says, are still wrong. I fire. The energy beam passes through empty air. The human has moved, not fast, just precisely. 3 steps sideways and 1 forward. Now she's close enough to touch. The combat knife appears in her hand like a magic trick. You want to know the correct calculation? She asks. The blade slides between my ribs with surgical precision. Not a killing stroke. Not yet. Just enough to make breathing difficult and movement painful. I stumble backward. Hit the wall. Slide down until I'm sitting in a growing pool of my own blood. 1 human, she says, kneeling beside me, equals 1 dead squad. My vision blurs. Blood loss, shock, the predictable physiological response to catastrophic trauma. Every time, she continues. Yes, the equation never changes. Why? I manage to whisper. Why what? Why are you telling me this? The human sits back on her heels, studies my face with the detached interest of someone examining an equation. Because you're going to live long enough to make a report. My weapon charge reads 11%. Still functional, still capable of 1 clean shot. Your backup squad will arrive in 47 minutes, the human says. They'll find you here, wounded but alive. I'm sole survivor. She's right, backup protocol. When a squad fails to report, command sends reinforcement. Standard procedure. They'll want to know what happened. I'll tell them, I say. Will you? The human stands. Walks to the corridor entrance, turns back. Tell me, Captain Zethnalar, what will you tell them happened here? I think about the last 14 hours, about how we breached the station expecting minimal resistance, and about how we found the human's body in the command center, clean shot through the heart, confirmed dead by our medical scanner, about how she started killing us anyway. I'll tell them the truth. The truth? That the human operative was already dead when the attacks began. Her smile is barely visible in the emergency lighting. And they'll believe you? My weapon charge reads 9%. Enough for 1 shot. 1 chance. They'll have to, or I'm the only witness. Are you? The human reaches into her utility vest, withdraws a small recording device, places it on the floor between us. This device has been recording since you entered the station, she says. Audio and visual documentation of every engagement, every death, every tactical decision. My blood feels colder than the station's recycled air. They'll see the truth, Captain. Or they'll see exactly what happened here. Which is what? That you and 11 other trained hegemony soldiers were systematically eliminated by someone who was already dead when you arrived. The recording device's indicator light blinks steadily. Red, active. They'll see that your mathematics don't account for human variables. What variables? The human's expression changes. For the first time since this nightmare began, I see something other than professional detachment in her eyes, something almost like sadness. Stubbornness, she says. Spite. The absolute refusal to let death be the end of the equation. My weapon charge reads 7%. You died 14 hours ago, I whisper. Yes. How? Combat stimulants, neural overrides, medical technology that your people haven't developed yet. She pauses. And simple human mathematics. which is, sometimes the mission matters more than staying alive. The human walks back toward me, kneels down, are close enough that I can see my own reflection in her eyes. Sometimes, she says, one human is worth more than one human. My weapon charge reads 5%. The knife reappears in her hand. This is going to hurt, she says, but you'll live. The blade finds nerve clusters with surgical precision. Pain explodes through my nervous system like chain lightning. Everything goes white. When my vision clears, the human is gone. The recording device remains, blinking. Recording. She after-action report. Captain Zethaneler Medical Bay, Hegemony Command Station. Classification absolute priority. They want me to change my report. High Command reviewed the recording, analyzed the tactical data, consulted their mathematical models. Their conclusion, the engagement was impossible. No human operative could have eliminated an entire squad post-mortem. The recording must be fabricated. My injuries must be self-inflicted. My testimony must be evidence of psychological breakdown. The mathematics don't work any other way. But I was there. I saw the equation solve itself. One human operative, 12 hegemony soldiers, 47 minutes of hunting, one survivor. The human was right. We're still counting wrong. We count lives. We count weapons. We count tactical advantages and numerical superiorities. Humans count something else. They count the things worth dying for. And apparently, once you figure that variable into the equation, everything else becomes simple mathematics. Even death, especially death. I'm submitting my original report unchanged. Let High Command explain why their mathematics can't account for a dead human who refused to stop fighting. Let them calculate the strategic implications of an enemy that treats mortality as a tactical option. Let them figure out how to fight a war against people who've already solved the hardest equation of all. What comes after zero? End report. Personal note. Captain Zethaneler. Classification, personal. The medics say I'll recover fully. Nerve damage was precise. Painful but not permanent. Professional work. She could have killed me easily. Instead, she left me with a message. Not the recording, not the tactical demonstration. The message was simpler than that. She left me alive to tell Command that humans have been calculating war differently from the beginning. We count ships. They count causes. We count soldiers. They count reasons. We count probability of victory. They count the price of defeat. And when you're willing to solve for variables that we don't even acknowledge exist, well, mathematics becomes a very different kind of weapon. The human was right about one more thing. We're all still counting wrong. Even now. Even after everything. Some equations apparently are bigger than the numbers they contain.